When large jobs require moving massive amounts of snow, get the work done quickly and efficiently with the Western Pile Driver and all-new Pile Driver XL pusher plows, both featuring Trace Edge technology. These pushers scrape down to the pavement with an advanced cutting-edge system that has independent 2-foot sections that move vertically, oscillate, and trip. Get more jobs done faster with the Western Pile Driver lineup of pusher plows.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. You know there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey with your host, Dave Westcott. The Entrepreneurial Journey is a weekly podcast that streams live every Tuesday at 9:15 a.m. Pacific on Dave's YouTube channel and LinkedIn profile. Now here's Dave with this week's episode.
Good morning and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. I'm your host, Dave Westcott, and I have with me this morning special guest, Michael Putnam, owner of Putnam Real Estate and former PGA golfer. Good morning, Michael. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm fantastic. Good to be with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for jumping on the call. PGA golfer. I got to start there. When did you join the tour?
Yeah, so I went to Pepperdine on a golf scholarship.
Okay.
So graduated from Life Christian Academy out in Tacoma, Washington. Got a golf scholarship to Pepperdine, and then graduated in 2005 as one of kind of the top college golfers in the country. While I never really thought I was going to be a professional golfer growing up, it kind of just happened, which is really weird for, a lot of people dream of being a professional athlete, but I never really dreamt of that. I actually wanted to be an engineer when I was growing up. My dad was an instructional engineer. But, once I got my senior year and I was basically one of the best players in the country, decided that let's turn pro. So I turned professional in 2005 and played professional golf until 2019. So 14 years.
Wow, that's a long time. That's a long time to be on the tour.
Yeah, it's a long career. Golf, you can have these long careers on like football or basketball. But yeah, 14 years of basically traveling 30 to 40 weeks a year. All over the country, all over the world, really. Got to play some awesome golf courses and some great tournaments. Got to play with all the guys that probably, any guy knows on the tour. I've basically got paired with everybody and played with everybody except Tiger Woods. I've been in front of him and behind him in tournaments, but never really paired with him. But pretty much everybody else on tour that anyone's ever heard of, I've got to play golf with and compete against, and it was a fun time for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you were on tour and running that gamut as a professional golfer, were you running the real estate business at the same time, or did the real estate business come after golf?
Yeah, so my wife and I decided that we wanted to invest in real estate once we made some money playing golf, and so My grandparents and parents were kind of investors in real estate, owned some rentals. Her dad was a house builder growing up and a finished carpenter. And so we were always kind of interested in real estate. So back in 2009, I guess 4 years into my professional golf career, we bought our first rental and decided we were going to buy a rental for every kid that we had.
Okay.
So that was kind of our goal. So our first house we bought was a townhome, a duplex townhome. I knew that was going to be a rental someday, and moved out of that pretty quickly. But bought our first rental in 2009 once the economy kind of hit the downturn.
Yeah,
I was still making money playing golf, and house prices went way down. And so then bought another rental in 2013. Kind of saved up throughout my golf career to buy rental houses. We didn't know we were going to become Putnam Real Estate and do the real estate thing after golf. Quite honestly, I was hoping I'd make enough money playing golf that I wouldn't have to do too much. But that didn't happen, and it shouldn't happen. I believe God created us to work. So
yeah.
Yeah, and then it kind of 2019, 2018, I got injured. I could kind of tell my career from golf was kind of waning or was going to be done. And honestly, my wife got her real estate license in 2018 for the sole reason of if we have to sell one of our rental properties to make ends meet, why pay someone else? Why don't you sell it for us? And honestly, then that started our real estate journey. So she got her license. We ended up not having to sell any of our rentals because once she got her license, she got super busy with clients buying and selling houses for people down here in the South Sound, family, and I kind of morphed into our business together now. So 2 years in, we popped out a fourth kid unexpectedly, and she said, "Why don't you get your license so you can keep this thing going, this business I've built?" And so, yeah, I got my license in 2019. So May 2020, I guess, early 2020. And yeah, we've been on this journey together since then.
So you guys are a good 6 years into business, into your entrepreneurial journey. What lessons compare from being a professional athlete, being a golfer, training, discipline, and what relates to business?
Yeah, so obviously professional sports, I mean, you got to be at the top of your game. I mean, you're trying to beat the best in the world every week. And so you're always looking to get better and to improve. And taking those lessons from golf into real estate is just, I mean, it's been a natural transition, but also it's been something that, I wouldn't have learned in any other profession, to try to obviously be the best, beat the best, look for ways to improve, look for ways to grow. When I was playing golf, my golf game, become a better golfer, but now in real estate, looking for ways to, be a better realtor, be a better investor, find better deals, put together better deals, be creative, and all that from golf is kind of translated into that real estate journey.
Yeah, that's great stuff. When you're getting ready for a big tournament, you've got a big golf tournament coming up, and
Yeah.
Obviously you practice and you get your equipment ready, so on and so forth. But how did you mentally prepare to go into those big matches? What did the mental preparation look like?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it honestly was the physical and mental preparation before the event. So I mean, I played in 7 majors, 6 U.S. Opens, a British Open, some of the obviously biggest tournaments in the world. But really the mental preparation came with the physical preparation before, knowing that I put the time and the effort in and that I was working as hard as I could to perfect, the game that I had that week, my swing, chipping, putting, whatever, part of the golf game that, all parts of the golf game really. But mentally, I kind of black out on the first tee and just go into the zone. My coach used to call it being in the flow, where you're not thinking about much. You're repeating what you've practiced, and all those negative thoughts, crazy thoughts, obviously all the people watching and all that pressure that people put on themselves because of the situation they're in or the shots they're hitting or the big event that people think is super important. That all kind of goes by the wayside mentally when you're at one of the top athletes in the world. I mean, you kind of just put that to the side and you play golf and you play your game. And it translates, and that mindset translates, into business and into the rest of life as well.
I love that. That's a great answer. I love that, being in the flow. I think that's a great line, being in the flow. So if you have a bad round, or if you have a bad day and it doesn't go the way that you want to, you've got to get ready for the second day or the third day. What do you do when things don't go right? How do you mentally reset, mentally prep? Is it somewhat similar, or is there some self-talk and some preparation that happens in there?
For sure. No, there's definitely self-talk, a lot of self-talk, telling yourself, hey, you've prepared for this moment. You're better than this. You will play better tomorrow. But yeah, golf is crazy. I mean, it's full. It was full of ups and downs. I mean, minute by minute, shot by shot, round by round. obviously tournament by tournament, that you play mental gymnastics to try to stay at the top of your game mentally and physically. I think one of the biggest things I did when I had a bad round, I took a half hour, I took an hour, thought about what happened, where I need to improve, and then kind of schedule the game plan of, all right, I need to improve, do this, this, and this. And if I do that, I'll feel like I'll be ready for tomorrow. So I kind of always sketched a little practice plan or mental plan to get ready for the next day. And that was huge in resetting kind of my brain and body to, get ready for the next day. Because in golf, I mean, you play 2 rounds and usually there's a cut. And if you don't make the cut, you don't make any money. And, you go fly to the next event. And so it was, if you had one bad round, especially, on the PGA Tour level, it sets you back a little bit. But, for a course of 35 tournaments that you play in the year, obviously there's going to be bad rounds all over the place. Sure. We didn't hit every shot perfect. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great insight. I love that you sketched that out and you broke that down of what happened and what went through. So while we're talking about PGA, what's your favorite moment? What's the best kind of career defining? Wow, that was just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best moments I ever had was my first ever event. I was 21, just got out of college. And I got a call. I had an agent, that I was working with for sponsors and stuff. Got a call from a tournament saying, "Hey, I'm giving you a sponsor exemption into a PGA Tour event." I was one of the top 2 or 3 golfers coming out of college that year, and so I got to play in Connecticut at what's called the Travelers Championship now, as my first ever PGA Tour event. And I went in there just wide eyed. Didn't know what to expect. And in my first ever event, I finished 4th.
Wow.
On the PGA Tour, yeah. So I went from like $1,200 in my bank account to finishing 4th on the PGA Tour. My brother was caddying for me. I didn't know, what I was doing. He didn't know what he was doing. And that was my highest finish in my career on the PGA Tour ever. And it was the first event I ever played. I finished 4th a couple other times after that, but I never beat that finish in my first ever event. So that was obviously a really cool moment. One moment that stands out at the Waste Management, which is in Phoenix, that big tournament that has those huge crowds in that big stadium, bowl of golf. I think it was it must have been 2015 when the Seahawks, 2014, 2015 when the Seahawks were in the Super Bowl. They played the Super Bowl in Phoenix that year. Yeah. And so the tournament was on the same weekend. So on Saturday, there was 200,000 people at the tournament.
Wow.
And a lot of them were Seahawk fans. A lot of them were Patriot fans. And on that 16th hole, where they have those big grandstands with like 30, 40,000 people, my brother and I decided to wear Marshawn Lynch jerseys while we played the hole.
Oh, that's awesome.
The Super Bowl the next day. Yeah. Well, we thought it was awesome. We thought, hey, we're in Phoenix. There's going to be a lot of Seattle fans down here. Like, people will like this, right? People will like this. Well, we walked into the stadium and the boos just started raining down on us. And then, there's only 4 of us in there. There's 2 players and 2 caddies, in this arena of 30,000 fans. And so I'm like, well, that didn't go as planned. Like, I thought there'd be a lot more Seahawk fans, cheering us on. Anyway, kept the jerseys on and hit our shot. I hit it to like 15 feet, hit a really good shot, got booed. Like they didn't, no clapping. And I'm like, what? And so we're walking up to the green. It's 165 yards, 165-yard walk. And the whole time, it felt like 30,000 people. Probably wasn't all of them, but it was probably 20,000 people. Started yelling, "Seahawks suck." Seahawks
oh my
suck.
Gosh.
And so I'm walking up to this golf hole and 20,000 people are yelling at my brother and I because we're wearing Marshawn Lynch jerseys. And it's not a career-defining moments that I'll never forget. Because standing on the green, looking at a 15-foot putt, just saying, just get out, like hit this really fast. Let's get out of here. Like this didn't go as planned because we had 20,000 people yelling at us that, the Seahawks sucked. Must have been a lot more Cardinal fans there than we thought, / Patriot fans, for the Super Bowl. But just one fun moment that like
Yeah,
you
that's a
know.
great share, man. That's a great moment. Like you've planned for it, you put it together, you've played it out in your head, and it goes completely
Yeah.
different than what you thought it was going to be.
Oh, completely opposite. Yeah. And we were the ones that, I mean, this is a weird feeling getting yelled at by 20,000 people knowing they're yelling at you, and they're not happy with you. They're not happy with you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's hardcore,
So,
man. I mean, that's intense. That's some intensity. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's awesome because I mean, I think so many times in business as an entrepreneur or no matter what we're doing, like we play something out in our mind. Maybe it's a business plan, maybe it's, we build our dream business and it just doesn't go the right way. And
for sure.
it goes
Yeah.
sideways, and then how do we recover from that? I love the grit and the determination, man. It's like, man, we're gonna get through it. We're gonna walk up, we're gonna sink our putt and we're gonna move on. We're gonna get out of here as fast as possible, but we're gonna complete what we moved on for. I think there's so many lessons that could be unpacked just in what was the plan for that and what happened, on the field and, how you felt and how you pushed through it. And, did that affect your concentration? And I mean, just all of those things that kind of, resonate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, so you've been married since early 2000s. Is that correct?
Yeah. I got married in 2006, December
2006.
December 2006. Yeah.
And so you mentioned earlier that for 30 or 40 weeks a year, you are on the road. You're a professional athlete. You're hanging out in some of the greatest places in the world. People dream and pay tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases to, see these tournaments and so forth. And you're there, you're on the ground, you're playing. I mean, you're living a dream, is what it sounds like always to the person who's watching you, live your life. How do you maintain a marriage and a relationship with all that travel and all that, because there's notoriety and frame that goes with all of that. And so how do you maintain that relationship? Because I watch so many entrepreneurs build their business and their relationship. They're not on the road nearly as often as you are, but they lose the relationship because they worked too much, because they were gone. And so I would just, wonder what tips, tricks, like what did you do that says, man, we've got a solid relationship. We're in business together, but we had this massive travel and program in front of us.
Yeah. So my wife and I's relationship, I say we've lived like 3 different lives. I mean, like totally different lives. And to keep our relationship together through living 3 different lives has been, one, just a blessing from God that we've been able to do it. But 2, we've had to pivot and transition to like, what is our marriage? Because to be honest, the first 5 years, super easy. We got married in 2006. We didn't have any kids for 5 years. She traveled on the road with me every week. She got to stay, we got to stay in the nicest places in the world. They treated the wives like queens out there. PGA Tour had this like saying where if you treat the wife, if you make the wife want to come back to the tournament, the husband will come back. So every tournament tried to like cater to the wives. They had all sorts of fun stuff going on, free massages, shopping trips. I mean, all sorts of crazy stuff that,
Incredible.
It's a dream. Yeah, it's a dream. And so to live that for the first 5 years of marriage was awesome. I mean, it was a dream. Then we started having kids, and you can't travel 40 weeks on the road with a kid.
No.
When we had 4 kids, it stops. And so we had our son, Jansen, and he traveled for a lot. I mean, they traveled almost every week. It was still fun, but it was a different dynamic for sure. Obviously traveling in the kids, we didn't fly private or anything. So we're in the airports just like everybody else, sitting in the back seats, in coach class. And they traveled quite a bit. And then we had a second child, and then they traveled 50% of the tournaments. And then we had a third, and my son got into kindergarten and had to be in school, and they traveled 30% of the tournaments. And by the time we had our fourth child, I mean, they would come out in the summer here and there, but they would come to 5 events a year or something. And so our marriage was totally different than the first 6 years of bliss traveling on the road. Because one, work got in the way, but also kids and like they had to go to school. They couldn't just, travel 50 weeks a year. And so we had to pivot our relationship and, realize the season that we were in. And, obviously did a lot of FaceTiming, FaceTime calls.
Sure.
But we made kind of a pact where I wouldn't play more than 3 weeks, wouldn't be gone more than 3 weeks without coming home and seeing everybody for at least a week. And knowing that, she was at home raising the kids, doing a lot the heavy lifting here while I was out on the road, still probably living the dream and playing the PGA Tour, although sometimes it wasn't a dream. But it was tough. That was probably the toughest time for sure when, I was gone because I was, on the tour, and she was home with the kids because she kind of had to be. And so that was like life number 2, where we pivoted from marriage is bliss, we're together all the time because we can be, to, like an entrepreneur, spending time at the work, not being home. For me, it was literally not being home. And by the grace of God, we made it through that time period. It's tough. I mean, it's really tough being away so much. But we made it through. God blessed us with the ability to kind of pivot and realize this is what our life's going to be for a while, knowing that it's not going to be forever. And then now, our life number 3, which is retired, and we're home building a real estate business together. And so we've had almost 3 different relationships. One, she was following me while I was, living my dream. She was, living her dream. 2, she was working full time at home, raising kids while I was gone, living my dream. And now we're working together, obviously raising the kids together. And so it's been a journey, and it's been a journey for a businessman. It's a journey for, professional athlete, but by God's grace, we've recognized the seasons we're in. I think that's the biggest thing, is we recognize the seasons we're in, knowing that there's going to be more seasons in life where our marriages is going to have to shift and change. And we signed up for that. I mean, that's what we signed up for, is a lifelong commitment to each other, and knowing that, life changes and seasons change. And that's kind of what kept us through, kept us together all the way through.
I love that, man. I think, so my big kind of takeaway there is that you're recognizing the seasons that you're in as you're moving through life. You're intentionally recognizing where you're at, and then you're making pivots within that to adjust the way you're living your life, and, living within those seasons, but adjusting in those seasons to keep your marriage and your family strong and healthy.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is like you just said, recognizing that it's a season. So if you can be on board with your spouse and recognize whether you're building a business and the next 2 years are going to be tough, or you're having to spend 80 hours a week because you're building this business, having their support to do it, knowing it's a season, is kind of the biggest. The biggest blessing as an entrepreneur or a husband or a wife building something, to know that you have that support, but also know that it's a season, and that there's, you can look forward to the next season once that business is built, or that, that time has come to a close, that you're moving on to something else.
Yeah. I love it. I love how you guys stay together. You mentioned God a few times, so God has got to be a first and foremost in your relationship, I'm guessing.
Yeah. We both recognize that we couldn't be where we are without God and His hand in our lives. Just blessing us with a lot of opportunity, and then taking that opportunity and trying to seize that opportunity He's blessed us with.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you guys start the real estate business, and I gotta think in my mind, like, because you told the story of the Marshawn Lynch jerseys and going out on the field and doing all that and playing that out. When you started the real estate business, has that gone the way that you guys have foreseen it, or have there been bumps and challenges in the road there as well?
Yeah, not at all. Honestly, so she, like I said earlier, she got her license, but she had it for 2 years, and she built this business. And for about 1.5 years, when I retired, and I retired because of injury, and I was battling, trying to get back, and physical therapy, and doing all sorts of stuff to try to get back to playing golf. But she started this real estate business, and no, it didn't go as planned. I mean, we didn't know where it was going to lead us. We were just hoping, God was going to bless our hard work, her hard work, actually. And I took 1.5 years and basically did nothing. other than try to get my body healthy. And I just said, hey, I've been on the road for 15 years, 15 years of professional golf and 4 years of college golf. And,
Sure.
For
20 years.
20 years. So, 20 years of being gone 40 weeks a year. I'm not doing anything for a while.
Yeah.
But it all changed when we had a fourth child. And I remember she had a client, a good friend of ours that was trying to buy a house, and she was literally doing a contract while giving birth in the hospital.
Wow.
And she's like, this has to change. You need to go get your license so that you can, help our clients buy and sell houses. And then COVID hit. And so we just worked with clients buying and selling houses here and there. We're successful, but it wasn't like we were building a huge business. But then COVID, we stayed home for a while, and we watched, I should say, way too much, Chip and Joanna Gaines, HGTV.
Yeah.
And decided, you know what, we're sitting at home, no one's going anywhere. We could flip a house. We can buy a house and flip it and resell it for more. And so in 2021, we decided to buy our first flip house. And so that's a big part of our business now is we, buy and sell. We flip houses basically. And that's about half of our business. And so she works on the design and the picking all the finishes and everything. And I kind of do the grunt work of finding the contractor and making sure it's all going smoothly. But that we didn't start our real estate journey thinking we'd ever flip houses. And it kind of just, got put in the mind like, hey, why don't you try this? Try this with one. We had an opportunity to buy a house that, it was off market and just got presented to us, and we just went for it. And now, we flip 2 or 3 houses a year.
Wow.
On top of, buying and selling real estate for all of our clients. And it's been an awesome kind of transition into another business. And then since we bought rentals, as we grew our golf business, we ended up with 3 rental properties. And the opportunity came to partner with actually my brother Andrew, who was playing professional golf now. He started making a bunch of money and saw how we invested in rental properties, and he decided he wanted to invest in rental properties. And so we actually combined forces and kind of created a group called DMA Ventures, and we now have 28 rental properties under our name.
Wow. Congrats.
Yeah. And my dad is also involved in that. It's called DMA, Dan Michael Andrew Ventures. So
I love it. I love the family connection, man. That's outstanding. Yeah. And 28 rentals, that's no small feat to manage.
Yeah, so and I'm now home managing them because my brother's playing that blissful life of the PGA Tour. He's in season 2 of his marriage as well, because now they have kids and his wife doesn't travel as much. So they're in a season for a tough season with him being gone a lot. But
sure.
I'm at home managing these properties for my dad and my brother now that we're part of. So, but it's great. Yeah, we're adding and acquiring properties. A few every year at least. And building a good rental portfolio.
And that's awesome for generational wealth for your families, right? Like that's so cool for them to be able to step in and someday, inherit if that's what your plan is or whatever. But it's awesome to be able to, set that up through real estate. When you're working with I got to imagine that the toughest part of the flip is dealing with the contractors, right? Because they're just not easy to work with.
They're not. They always are trying to. Yeah, everyone's trying to get theirs, and so
right.
It's always a battle between what is respectfully owed, and what's due, and what's what we're trying to do. But it's a fun journey. Like I said, it kind of runs in the blood. My grandpa built houses for a living. My wife's dad built houses, and learned a lot kind of around them growing up.
Sure.
And just honestly, dealing with contractors it doesn't stress me out at all. It's not what I lose sleep over. So
that's good. That's good. Yeah. You've got some thick skin. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they're in charge of like 500 or 600 fuel stations across the Midwest. And this lady says me, she says, contractors have made me lose all faith in humanity. And so I'm always interested to hear if that's the experience. But, so many people, so many entrepreneurs look at their business. Doesn't matter whether they own a fruit smoothie stand or, they own a Marriott franchise, like whatever. People are always intrigued by the flip of the house. And I think like people are always looking at that and they're saying, man, if I could flip a house, that's my gold mine. If I could do that, that's my gold mine. One, I guess, how do you find the house that you want to flip?
Yeah, you get very lucky. No. Especially since, HGTV and all those shows of flipping whatever, flipping, El Musos and all those shows. Everyone wants to flip a house. As real estate brokers, we kind of get access to some of the first, when the first houses hit the market, or families that decide they need to sell a house because a parent has passed away and they acquire houses. So we're about 50-50 on market and off houses. And now in the South Sound here, especially in our office, we hang our license at Keller Williams Tacoma, where there's 148 agents. Everyone in there knows that we flip houses. And so if there's something that comes across their desk that's an off-market deal that they've acquired, that someone just needs to sell something really fast for cash, usually we're the first call, which is pretty cool now. In the beginning, it was tough to find a house. I mean, you can't just buy any house and flip it and make money. Like, it just doesn't work that way.
Sure. No, it doesn't.
No, a lot of people lose money flipping houses. Thankfully, we have never lost money flipping a house. So we must be doing something right. But yeah, honestly, it's acquiring your first one and then making a budget and deciding how much money you're going to put in and what you can sell it for when it's done. And if our first ever house we flipped, I felt like I had to be there and work on it and help the contractors to save money because we didn't know how it was going to end up.
Sure.
The first house, and we want to make sure it was profitable and it was something that we wanted to keep doing. And but now, honestly, we're as I wouldn't say seasoned veterans, but we're 4 or 5 years into this. I'm pretty hands off, and I find the right house, but then we just get contractors to do everything, and then I sell it.
Yeah. Is there a target profit or a target margin you're looking to make on a flip?
Yeah. So, I mean, the target margin would be about 30%.
Okay.
If you calculated it in like year-over-year, return. So we typically keep houses for 4 to 7 months is our longest time we've ever kept a house, flipping it. And so, we've done anywhere from 30% to 100% profit. It's pretty crazy.
I like the 100% profit a lot better.
Yeah, just depending on the deal that you're doing. And we didn't get lucky. Some guy called us off a sign that was posted outside of one of our houses we were selling and came across he acquired 3 properties right next to each other. His parents passed away and he had lived out of state, didn't know what to do with them. And we said, he gave us a price. And I said, well, what if we just buy all 3 of them and get you your money tomorrow? Like, will you sell it to us? And he was like, yeah, sure. So we gave him like $850,000 for 3 properties, and we made like $400,000 in like 6 months off flipping them. So it was like it was pretty crazy. But there, you just have to keep your eyes and ears open for deals and have to be able to jump on them when you find them, for sure. Like you can't be passive. You got to take the risk and just jump right into it. You got to go for it.
You got to go for it. Just like anything, you got to go for it and put it in. So that's awesome. So if you buy a house for $700,000, you're looking to make $1 million. You're looking to sell for $1 million.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
maybe a little bit more because of fees and so forth. But you're mitigating some of that because you guys, get the licensing commissions and so on and so forth on your end.
Yeah, we stick. So if you're a new home flipper and you want to flip homes, stick to like a 3-bed, 1-bath or a 3-bed, 2-bath. 1,200 to 1,400 square foot house is your first house. You almost can't go wrong if you can buy it at a decent price, because that house is one of the most desirable houses for people to buy, even in a bad market, which we have right now. Those houses have no trouble selling. That's your entry level, or downsize, house that people will buy. So that's your house you want to start with if you're going to flip houses.
That's a great tip. So 3-bedroom, 1 to 2 bath, 1,200 to 1,400 square feet. it's
Yep.
pretty much, it's just like a safe play on the stock market. Like you're not going to get
It's
burned.
investing into the S&P 500 index fund. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. There you go. I love that. That's a great analogy. Okay. So that's a great tip. That's a great tip for the audience today. Where do you guys see your real estate brokerage, your business going in the future? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so I mean, part of our goal for flipping houses is because flipping houses is a quick profit, right? It's your salary, let's call it. It's you're not investing in the future. So our goal for flipping houses is to acquire more rentals. So every couple houses that we flip, we make enough money to buy another rental or invest in our long-term, wealth, or our journey of retirement, or whatever you want to call it. And so our transactional volume, which is our clients that are just buying houses, moving out of state or moving to a bigger house, smaller house, that is an awesome, just kind of salary that we take off that. And then, but really flipping is more about investing, and just a real estate business in general is to invest and acquire more real estate. When I finished playing golf, I started listening to this guy, For Rentals. Let's see, Michael Zuber is his name, and he subscribes that if you own 4 rentals or buy 4 rentals, by the time you retire and those rentals are paid off, you're gonna have a good retirement. So he has a book called One Rental at a Time. And he has a podcast that I listen to, where it's basically a real estate podcast, what's going on in the real estate world. But that was the goal, was to buy 4 rentals, and now we got 28. So so that's the 4 up to 28, and so we're just gonna keep going. I don't know. I mean, if God opens the doors, we're gonna just keep buying and selling and keep going.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love what you guys put together, and I love the tips that you shared. I also love that 4 rentals paid off gives you a good retirement. I think that's really smart, and that's really safe. I've seen in my life that real estate has been one of the biggest impacts in wealth and success when you can afford it and buy it. So I'm a big believer in that as well. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's really powerful. I got just a couple of questions left before we bring this thing in for a landing. This has been a lot of great information. So if someone is looking to purchase or sell, how do they get a hold of you guys? What does that look like? Are you on social media? Where do they find you guys?
Yeah, they find us through our Instagram or Facebook accounts at Putnam Real Estate. Or they can just call me, 253-732-7739.
There you go. You just got a professional golfer's number right on the line, and they can help you sell or buy. You guys help sell and buy.
Help me sell and buy, and I might even give you a golf lesson if you're nice enough. We'll see. Everybody wants a golf lesson, a free golf lesson, so we'll go out and play. Yeah, no, it's we love working with clients, especially family and friends, or recommendations from whoever. We love finding people their dream home. We love finding investors their next duplex or their next flip. We also love advising how to 1031 exchange those into bigger properties, or we dabble a little bit in apartment complexes and multifamily units. But we are really passionate about really helping people honestly build wealth through real estate. Another saying that we have is get rich slowly. Real estate is a good way to get rich slow. You buy that first investment property and you might be making a couple $100s a month off the rent, if you have a mortgage. But by year 30, the real estate has tripled in value, and you're, clearing cash, and your rental cash flow and your rents have doubled in values, and so, that's get rich slow is kind of the saying.
I love that. Get rich slow. I might even make that the title of this show. I don't know, but that's a great saying. For the people out there who are looking to invest, and so many entrepreneurs that listen to this show, like they're always trying to invest in real estate. Like I get so many LinkedIn messages and Facebook messages about where was your first investment and what did it look like? And for, from a professional like yourself, what, like if maybe you've got a concrete business or you own the fruit smoothie stand or whatever it is, and you're saying, man, this really resonates with me. I love this get rich slowly. What does that first investment look like in your mind? Like, you gave such a great tip on, 3 beds, 1 to 2 bath, 12 to 1400 square
Yeah.
feet. Where do you think is a good, safe place to just, bam, really get that first base hit?
Yeah, if it depends on your age. So if you're new and you're young and you're buying your first home, buy a duplex or buy a fourplex. You can get preferred interest rates, owner occupied interest rates with it. You can live in one of the units, rent out the other three, and then always keep that as your first rental that you ever bought. So I would tell anyone who's first getting into real estate and buying their first home, buy a duplex or buy a fourplex and rent out the other side, become a landlord early. Because they'll pay your rent and they'll pay your mortgage. The renter will pay your mortgage. Currently in this market, they only, because of interest rates being at 7%, the only real big, I wouldn't say like easy investment is, but the best investment you can make is right now is buying property that you can add DADUs to. You can, the DADU laws in Tacoma, Seattle, well, in Washington in general, have changed so much over the last 2 years, where now you can buy a property, build a 1,000 square feet. Some cities it's 1,200 square foot house in the back, 5-foot setbacks, connected to the sewer of the main house. But you can also then condominiumize those houses and sell them off separately as separate parcels without having to go through like a short plat or a long period with the government. And so that is the biggest investment where we're seeing people make the most money right now, is buying property that has room to build what they call a DADU, detached accessory dwelling unit, on it, and then either keeping it as a rental property, portfolio of properties. So now you have two houses on one property, or condominiumizing them and selling them as separate property. And that is the one place in the current market with the current interest rates that still makes sense.
That's an awesome tip. I think that's fantastic. Get a property where you can put a DADU on it, possibly condo it out, make it as part of your portfolio. I think that's fantastic. All right, I got 2 questions left. One, any tip for any entrepreneur out there getting into business? Do you think is the most important thing that they should be looking out for, paying attention to as they start their entrepreneurial journey?
I mean, I think one of the biggest things you can do is set a 1 and a 3 year goal. I'm not huge. I mean, I was a professional athlete. I didn't set career goals, or by the time I'm 40, I want this, or by the time I'm 60, I wanted that. But set attainable 1 and 3 year goals, so that you have some direction in your entrepreneurial journey, and measure yourself to your goals. A lot of entrepreneurs don't know they're failing, and they could be succeeding in some other part of their entrepreneurial journey. But if you can measure yourself against your goals and be honest with yourself, I think you can either pivot if you need to, or you can keep going with what you're doing, and find success that way. That's my number one thing. And make them short goals, like I said, a 1 year goal and a 3 year goal, because you got to give yourself some time, but don't give yourself 10 years to try to start an ice cream shop. Like, there's a reason why ice cream shops are hard,
Right.
But give yourself some time, but not, don't overcommit, because what you're learning in that season could translate into, a whole other season of business from a whole separate, business that you didn't even know existed that you're interested in. And that's kind of where we found my life. Obviously, I was super interested in golf, but then we bought a few rentals, didn't know that it was going to become a Putnam Real Estate Corporation now, but learning the lessons from my golf career translated into my business career. And same with anyone else, any entrepreneur, learning lessons of either failure or success in that first few businesses, so that you can succeed in 10 years later when you're maybe doing something else.
You mentioned pivot a lot. Like, I've heard you say that now 5 or 6 times on the show. And I think that's great. Because I think sometimes business owners get stuck in, like, this was my first business and I have to keep banging my head against the wall to make it work. And like you said, sometimes we think we're failing, or we might be failing, but we keep banging our head. And it's okay to pivot and change directions. We don't have to do the same thing forever.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's really powerful.
It's huge in real estate, because we're pivoting. We're in the same business, but we're pivoting how we invest because of market conditions, interest rates. COVID made everybody pivot how they invested, and so like we're still in the same real estate business, which is why we bought rentals when the market went down in 2009. While in 2025, it doesn't make sense to buy a single family home rental because interest rates are 7% and you can't cash flow on a single family home. But we pivoted into flipping houses so that we can put more down to buy a single family home as a rental. We've pivoted into building DADUs on backs of properties because that is what that's what the market conditions require, is us to pivot to doing that. That's the place where you can make money. And so while we're in the same kind of real estate market, real estate, but we've pivoted so many times to finding that little niche during the change of market conditions. And I think entrepreneurs, if they don't, like you said, if they don't pivot at all and they just want to bang their head against the wall saying this is how it's always been done and this is how I'm going to do it, they're going to find problems. And sure, they might find a breakthrough here and there, but man, if you can pivot within your within your field of expertise, I mean, that's where you're going to make the most money.
Yeah, that is so true. That is such great advice. All right, final question. You've got a billboard, a whiteboard, the world can see it. You get to put a slogan on it, a word on it, a series of words on it, a sentence. What do you want to tell the world?
Whew. Sheesh. What do I want to tell the world? The first thing that comes to my head is a golf saying that I used to have, because everyone says, "Oh, you need to go practice more. Practice more. Go practice. Same with business. Go practice. Go learn. Go whatever." But my golf coach and my dad actually said, you don't need to practice more. Just when you practice, you need to practice perfectly. Meaning you need to refine your practice so you're practicing the right things. Don't just fill your life with meaningless tasks or more podcasts to listen to or more books to read, but make it meaningful. Like read the stuff that applies to your life, and don't just fill it up with stuff that might not apply. And then really focus on what you're learning or what you're trying to get better at. That's more than a word or a sentence.
No, that was awesome, man. I love it. I mean, practice perfectly, make it meaningful. I think that's really powerful, right? You're not just going out there to swing the club, to swing the club, to swing the club. You're going out there to get the perfect swing, to get the ball in the perfect place. And the same in business, or the same in life, or the same in marriage, right? Practice perfectly, with your spouse, perfectly with your significant other, perfectly in the way you execute a standard operating procedure or whatever you've got in your business to help it grow. I think that's super powerful. Well, listen, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on the show. Thank you so much for your time. For any listener out there, if you're looking to, make that first investment, get with Michael and his team. Get with the team at Putnam Real Estate. These guys are incredible. They do a great job for you. If you're looking to make that investment, if you're looking buy, sell, whatever it is, connect with them. Like he said, you can find them on Instagram, Facebook, probably their website. He shouted out his phone number. But get a hold of them, and make that dream happen. And listen, get rich slowly.
There we go. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show. We are back 9:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every single week. I'm your host, Dave Westcott. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, anywhere it's social. I'm hanging out. If you like this show, give us a like, give us a share, drop your comments into the comment box. Michael, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Appreciate it, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. There's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Introducing the all-new Western Enforcer V-Plow. Engineered with all the features, efficiency, and performance of full-size Western V-Plows, built specifically for your half-ton truck. For more information, visit westernplows.com.